I'll move on to Sumudu. If Sri Lankan talent was a gift, you unwrap it, what's the one thing that worries you or surprises you the most?
Yeah, so pleasure to be here first. So I think I agree. I think we have a highly capable talent pool within us. But I think what worries me is one thing is that for the critical roles, I think the organizations expect the organization to grow aggressively. They don't want stable growth. So picking those critical talent, I think we need more of, bold innovators who actually challenges the status quo. So when you actually surf the talent pool, I think it's a bit difficult to capture that talent. So I think people are a bit more comfortable to maintain the status quo and grow in a steady way. Whereas I think we need few bold innovators in our talent pool. So that's a bit of a worrying part in my experience. So if we have more of them, and if we guide the organizations or at least employees to be bold innovators more, I think both sides will benefit. So that's my perspective.
Thank you very much. That's very, very insightful, Sumudu. So Sumudu comes from Milk and Agri, and he is a CEO. So today's panel has two CEOs and HR personnel who are on their way to becoming CEOs for sure. But this one is about consumer brands and how it affects employer branding on a global stage, Sumudu. So in a sector, like in this case, where consumer brands often overshadow the corporate identity, how critical does employer branding become and how important is it in identifying talent? Because that's what we want, employer branding. The whole idea is to do that. And in your opinion, what strategies do you believe organizations should differentiate as an employer of choice, both locally and in a global stage, because today's discussion is around both those?
Okay. So I think obviously employer branding matters. I think it's a room full of HR specialists, so I think employer branding is critical for FMCG. I think different industries, I think there's no major difference in my perspective. But what I will tell is more from my perspective, because I think there are different hygiene factors which will drive the employer branding, and I think the place where we work is our second home. So it's important that we go to a place which has the values and the culture, everything what we want, and the employer branding is the projection of that. So my perspective to differentiate that, I think I will highlight, because I've worked in different organizations, about close to 5-6, like so many different industries, but I've worked in mostly FMCG, but I've worked in multinationals as well as local companies. So what I will tell is, for employer branding to be stronger, what an organization has to do differentiate from my perspective, what I will aspire, is mainly, I think, how the organization is actually grooming the talent proactively. So if an organization is actually identifying the potential talent and have a right building block for them to actually develop within the organization, that's a superb thing. I think I've been in different companies. Only few companies have actually had that ecosystem within the organization. So if we have that, I think you have a good talent pool within yourself, and technically you might not need employer branding because you have a good talent within that. So that's a hygiene benefit that is coming out. But what I think how it connects to the employer branding is, those stories, I think we need to, as organization, those stories you need to project to outside. So if you do that projection properly, your employer branding will be very strong in that one aspect I was talking. I'm not talking about the other aspects, but what are the stories you have to tell, that how you have identified key talent and how you have developed them and brought them to key leadership positions. So it doesn't need to be entry level. I mean, people can come through mid-level and they have been developed to go into the next level. So what is how proactively they have identified those people, what are the external interventions you have done, and how they have actually built those capabilities and actually moved into those levels. So that story, if you can project properly through the communications, because we have this misconception, if you don't have the core, but then you project something nicely, things will be sorted, but not really, because it will be validated. So I think so if I'm to pick and give the audience one thing I personally prefer is that kind of organization. So who has a robust ecosystem to actually develop people and move them to the next levels, and then they are actually thriving. And I think development means actually giving them cross-functional exposures, external interventions, professional training. I mean, we were talking about education, so I think those entire lot of it. So, and yeah, and I think on this subject also people like to hear stories, right? So if you project that in a story and employees talking themselves, I think that'll do the trick, FMCG mostly, but I think I'm sure the other industries will also benefit. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sumudu. You've been leading large-scale cross-functional teams across multiple sectors. What major shifts have you observed in top talent retention values today compared to 5 or 10 years ago? And also, how are organizations adapting or failing to adapt to these changing expectations simply instead of relying on traditional succession planning? I think you answered some bit of it in your previous answer, but how would you take this one?
So I think in the discussions also we discussed, I think we have gone through a pandemic, economic crisis, I think. So I think across the world we now know that you don't really need to go physical to work to actually get things done. So especially top talent, I think that flexibility is a key aspect I think the new generation is actually expecting. Flexibility not in, I think, the hygiene factors, I mean, whether you can come to work is the basic part, but I think I'm not talking about that. I think what I want to highlight is the flexibility the line manager can give. So no one is talking about that. So as an employee, for your top talent, if the line manager gives you the flexibility which is under his control, like there's a lot for them to retain with the organization. So you can be a tough boss, but you can be a flexible boss. So maybe when there's a difficult thing, you press him hard, but then when he needs time, when he needs to not be physically available, you can be a flexible boss. That dual ability, if all the leaders can actually adopt, I think that flexibility will embed in the organization. So if that is there, I think the talent will retain with the organization. That's what they want, right? Everyone now gone through that phase, so they want more flexibility. And with the top talent, you can do that. But maybe at the bottom end, it'll be a bit difficult logistically. But top talent, what you want is actually get things done, right? If he's getting the things done, you can be flexible. So I think still, I think most of the European countries, they don't come to work and they don't have seats, right? But I think I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mostly the line manager's flexibility, so which I think we forget mostly. So that line manager has a lot of power that we actually forget about it. The second one is actually more in terms of, I think, if you have to keep the talent, retain them, I think the new generation is, I think, no more works 5-10 years in an organization. So I think you need to continuously give them different exposures. You might not give a promotion, you might not be able to, but you need to give them different exposures. So some of the conglomerates I work, they had the opportunities, but they didn't actually give that opportunity. But some actually gave, like from leisure to consumer foods, they actually moved people around in the same grade so that they get exposure. So you are getting challenged, you have a purpose, you have a new beginning, your learning curve actually fast tracks, you are energized, so you retain them. So that's one way of, I think, giving them that, keeping the new talent, because they're demanding. I think they want to learn, they want to move faster and get that exposure. So those are the main two things.
Can't agree more, which is very true. It's bespoke, it's customized. You can't serve from the same spoon to everyone. Different people have different expectations. Being flexible, and a lovely thing that you said is you can be a flexible boss, but still be a tough boss. So the time you've got to be tough, you've got to be tough, but there are many occasions. Even the toughest boss can be flexible at times to make life easy for the people around, and even rewarding, right? It's very customized these days. Not everybody wants the same reward. Somebody wants money, other people want experiences. Somebody wants an air ticket to their favorite destination. Some people will buy the air ticket. They want a theme park entry ticket to their favorite theme park. It changes from person to person, and if you understand that in deep, then I think you're making a connection there too.